Hey, wake up! It's Means Morning News. Just after 11 a.m. on the East Coast, I'm the newsman Sam Sachs. Happy May Day to all who celebrate, which should be everyone, except the parasitic capitalist class. And they're not watching this show anyway. And we begin this morning with some good news. U.S. political prisoner Mohsen Madawi was finally released from an ICE detention center in Vermont following a judge's order. Madawi is one of several college student activists born abroad who had their legal status stripped over pro-Palestinian speech. He was involved in anti-genocide protests last year at Columbia University. Madawi had been in custody for 2 weeks after being lured to a local immigration office for his citizenship test and then arrested by ICE. And while he has finally been released from detention, he still has to fight the government's effort to deport him. Here was Mohsen addressing supporters after he was freed.
We will not fear anyone because our fight is a fight for love, is a fight for democracy, is a fight for humanity.
Amen.
And I am saying it clear and loud.
Yes.
To President Trump and his cabinet.
Yes.
I am not afraid of you.
The judge who ordered Madawi's release, Jeffrey Crawford, wrote in his ruling, quote, "Mr. Madawi's release is also in the public interest. His continued detention would likely have a chilling effect on protected speech, which is squarely against the public interest. And continuing to detain him would not benefit the public in any way, as Mr. Madawi appears to not be either a flight risk or a danger to the community. Finally, Mr. Madawi's release will benefit the community, which appears to deeply cherish and value him." Judge Crawford accurately noted that the indefinite detention itself is an attack against Madawi's free speech rights, and he's the first judge to order the release of someone deprived of their legal status by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, deeming them to be a threat to foreign policy. Other student visa and green card holders under similar threat have not received the same relief from the courts. Mahmoud Khalil and Rumeysa Ozturk remain detained in an ICE facility in Louisiana, both for over a month now. A judge had ordered Ozturk to be transferred to Vermont, but this week an appeals court blocked the move after the government challenged it. So it's likely she'll remain in detention until at least May 6th, when her next hearing is. In Khalil's case, a judge in New Jersey ruled this week that he does have a right to fight his detention, rejecting the government's claims that under the Immigration and Nationality Act, the courts have no jurisdiction to hear Khalil's free speech claims. Then there are the other victims of the president's mass deportation program, the individuals who've been wrongfully accused of being alien enemies and are at risk of being deported to a torture prison in El Salvador. The Supreme Court has temporarily blocked their removal under the Alien Enemies Act, so now dozens of them are languishing at the Blue Bonnet Detention Center in Texas. This week, a Reuters drone captured this image at the facility of the men joining together to spell out SOS with their bodies, the internationally recognized signal of distress. The government claims without any evidence that the men are members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. Their families deny the accusation. The White House is doing a new stupid and weird thing. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has 3 times this week conducted a second briefing during the day, only this time not with reporters from news outlets, but instead right-wing influencers. It's dubbed the New Media Briefing, and it features a bunch of online sycophants who dress up and play reporter for a day. It's like batting practice for Leavitt, who doesn't even really get challenged all that much during the traditional press briefings, which also have a new media seat, often filled by some right-wing loser like Tim Pool. A lot of the new media briefing is just outright flattery. Take a look.
Thanks for coming to the Influencer Briefing. I look forward to taking your questions. And Deborah, why don't you kick us off?
So congratulations on 100 incredible days.
First of all, thank you for the hospitality. Always open and welcome, and thank you for the access. And I'll say to you again, for everyone, what I said to you a few weeks ago when we were here. I said it's so refreshing to have a press secretary after the last few years who's both intelligent and articulate. So thank you for that.
Hi, Caroline.
Good to see you again.
Great to see you as well. Great job this morning, and as always, you're really crushing it.
One thing I've noticed in the first 100 days is that the White House is crawling with kids. You have a young, beautiful baby boy. There are babies everywhere. There's so many young folks on staff who have kids. But the last 4 years under Joe Biden, parents were really stressed and ravaged. They had to take on 2 or 3 extra jobs. Depression rates were up. Suicide rates were up. You're a very high-profile young mother who seems to juggle and balance it all beautifully.
Are these people even real? Is this an AI-generated video? Because there's something uncanny about the way they look. In addition to all the ass kissing, there was an appearance at the briefing from disgraced former White House press secretary Sean Spicer, also disgraced and fired Fox News host Eric Bolling. There was some British dude from the band Mumford & Sons asking if the US would give asylum to British posters who are being jailed apparently for retweeting memes. Also, the guy infamous for sharing child sex abuse footage on Twitter got to ask the White House if it's ever going to investigate Barack Obama for some crimes. And then there was this line of questioning from someone who seemed deeply confused.
The legacy media has gone back to not reporting anything on President Trump. In the beginning, we had them reporting everything that he was doing. Now they're kind of going back again to not reporting everything that he is actually doing.
Lady, what are you talking about? The new media isn't bringing their best. I'm not sure what the point of any of this is. Maybe it's to give Caroline Leavitt a pick-me-up during the day. Maybe it's just to showcase their allies who have large online followings, to nurture that relationship with the cranks. Maybe the White House is testing the waters and this will replace the normal briefings in the future. Who knows? Whatever it is, it's extremely embarrassing for everyone involved, but these people don't have any shame anyway. President Trump signed an executive order to, quote, unleash high-impact local police forces. If you think the cops are dangerous now, just wait until they're unleashed. Trump's executive action directs the Attorney General to boost resources to increase pay and benefits for cops, enhance sentences for crimes against law enforcement, and surge capacity at prisons. It also expands legal protections for police who are already mostly shielded on the job, even when they unjustly kill people. It also requires the Attorney General to terminate any consent decrees with police forces that under prior administrations were found to be engaged in systemic civil rights abuses. And it directs the Attorney General to go after local officials who impede law enforcement activity. When cops do find themselves in legal trouble, the Department of Justice is tasked with providing legal resources to them, including now the use of, quote, private sector pro bono assistance. That section in particular is eyebrow-raising given the intimidation campaign the president has launched against private law firms who've done work in opposition to him in the past. Under pressure, many of those firms have capitulated and agreed to deals with the administration to provide nearly $1 billion in pro bono legal work on behalf of the White House's interests. And finally, Trump's order calls for coordination between the Attorney General and the Secretaries of Defense and Homeland Security to provide military equipment and assets to local police departments. That could just mean a return to the program in which the military transferred surplus equipment like MRAPs to cops. That program was unwound amid police protests during the Obama presidency. Or it could be the prelude to martial law, Trump putting troops on the streets to suppress dissent as he ramps up civil rights abuses and crashes the dang economy. That would obviously violate the Posse Comitatus Act, which prohibits using the military to conduct domestic law enforcement. But the administration is already chipping away at the law, deploying troops to the southern border to do immigration enforcement in areas he's designated as military installations. You know, it really sucks that we weren't able to abolish the police back in 2020 when millions were in the streets calling for it. But I have a feeling we'll have our chance again. The U.S. military gave a $60 million contract to a company to develop an orbital carrier that can quickly deploy weapons for space warfare. Gravitics Inc. announced the award, distributed through the U.S. Space Force's research arm known as SpaceWorks. The company said in a press release, quote, "The orbital carrier is designed to pre-position multiple maneuverable space vehicles that can deliver a rapid response to address threats on orbit. This carrier will provide the U.S. Space Force with unprecedented flexibility and speed for in-space operations, significantly enhancing the nation's space defense posture." Think of an aircraft carrier in the ocean, but this one is for space. A launch could happen as soon as 2026. Might be time for the world to figure out how to start enforcing the Outer Space Treaty, which has been in effect since 1967 and is signed by all spacefaring nations, including the U.S. Article 4 of it reads, quote, "States parties to this treaty undertake not to place in orbit around the Earth any objects carrying nuclear weapons or any other kind of weapons of mass destruction, install such weapons on celestial bodies, or station such weapons in outer space in any other manner." Between this orbital carrier program and the so-called Golden Dome space missile defense system, the U.S. is signaling that it's moving away from its international obligations in the cosmos. This week in Working Class History is best known for the 1886 Haymarket Affair, in which a labor rally in Chicago was bombed, killing several workers. The event, which took place at an inflection point in the class war in America and around the world, went on to inspire the creation of May Day, or International Workers' Day, which is today. And all over the country today, rallies are being held, more than 1,000 of them, organized by hundreds of political, labor, and civil rights groups to protest the Trump administration and the oligarchy it's empowering. Find one and join in with comrades on the streets. But for this week's Working Class History segment, we're rolling it back a few decades earlier to 1867 for a major precursor to the Haymarket Affair. It's the Chicago General Strike. Labor unions in the city had been fighting for an 8-hour workday law, and the state legislature finally passed one in 1867. However, it contained a huge loophole that rendered it meaningless because it allowed employers to contract directly with their employees to work longer than 8 hours a day, which is what basically all the bosses forced on their workers. So, in response, the city's largest coalition of labor unions, the General Trades Assembly, called for a general strike, and thousands of workers heeded it and took to the streets, shutting down Chicago's economy for nearly a week. Ultimately, the strike broke down, and the law remained compromised and unenforced. But the fight for an 8-hour workday carried on for decades and was one of the main demands workers rallied around all the way up until the protests and strikes of 1886 and the Haymarket Riot. In 1938, workers finally secured what they had been fighting for so long when the U.S. Congress passed the Fair Labor Standards Act, establishing nationwide the 8-hour workday. Thanks as always to the team at Working Class History for giving us access to their archives. Find them on social media at Working Class History to learn more about the Chicago General Strike and the Haymarket Affair and the origins of May Day, as well as other events that happened this week, including the 1970 Kent State Massacre and the 1926 UK General Strike. Back with more next week. Okay, friends, today's show ends with a sunrise from Ohio. It was sent in by Lee in Cincinnati. Enjoy. Thank you, Lee. Show's over. Thanks for watching, and thanks to the team behind the scenes. Please sign up for Means TV if you haven't yet, and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels, and follow us on social media. One day capitalism will fall. Until then, we'll be right here. Except for tomorrow. The team has the day off tomorrow, so I'll see you next week.